I came home to a bottle of Pinot Noir meant for us and found divorce papers sitting beside it like flyers for a pizza place. Lauren didn't cry. She just watched her phone light up with a man's name that wasn't mine and spoke like the decision had been made months ago. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm not the loud type. I build things, fix things, carry weight without announcing it. That night, I walked into our midtown place with a small bag of groceries and the kind of tired that sits behind your eyes. The apartment was all glass and clean lines, expensive calm. Lauren kept it that way. I kept it running. On the kitchen island, a bottle of Pinot Noir waited in the center like it had been placed for a photo. 2 glasses beside it, and next to the glasses, white paper stacked neatly, clipped, squared off like a contract. Divorce papers, not hidden, not folded, not presented with trembling hands. Just laid out like junk mail you're supposed to deal with before bedtime. Lauren sat on the stool with her legs crossed, phone in her hand. She wore a plain sweater, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked rested, like she'd already slept through the worst part. I didn't speak right away. I read the first page. My name is typed in clean black ink. Here below it, dates, assets, the apartment address printed like it already belonged to someone else. My hand tightened on the paper. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but my voice stayed flat when it came. What is this? She didn't flinch. She didn't act angry. She didn't even look embarrassed. She just lifted her eyes to me with something close to pity. Detached, polite, already elsewhere. It's time, she said. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, again. She glanced down. Didn't try to hide the screen. Like hiding would imply guilt, and guilt would imply I still had a place here. I saw the name light up. Grant. I waited for her to add context. For a lie. For tears. For anything human. Instead she exhaled slowly, like she was choosing words for a meeting. I don't want to fight, Ethan. I stared at her, the bottle, the glasses. Pinot Noir meant to celebrate something. Maybe her promotion, maybe our anniversary, maybe just another Tuesday where we pretended we were fine. How long? I asked. Lauren's face didn't change. That's what hit hardest. Not the papers. Not the name on the phone. The calm certainty in her eyes. A while, she said. Mentally, it's been months. Months. Like I'd been walking around our life, fixing cabinet hinges and paying bills and making sure her mornings ran smooth, while she'd already moved out in her head. I wasn't her husband anymore. It was background noise that still took out the trash. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't apologize for it. She just looked at me like I was late to understand something obvious. And in that moment, I realized the suffocating part wasn't even the affair. It was the quiet fact that she'd already replaced me, and she expected me to accept it with the same polite silence she was giving me now. If you asked anyone outside our apartment, they'd say we had a clean life. Good money. Good address. 2 people who looked like they belonged in the same photo. From the inside, it was simpler. Lauren burned through law school like a controlled fire. No wasted motion, no softness. After that came corporate life. Late nights, early calls, constant pressure to be sharper, faster, more visible. I didn't resent it. I respected it. So I adjusted. I became the quiet infrastructure, the guy who handled the invisible logistics so her world stayed polished. I fixed what broke, replaced what wore out, keep the apartment humming, took the calls with the super, managed the calendars, bought the gifts, paid the bills on time without making a show of it. I didn't do it to earn points. I did it because that's what a husband does when he's built like I'm built. That's what made the papers on the island feel like someone had peeled the roof off the whole thing and acted surprised it rained. Lauren watched me read. I set the stack down gently, like I didn't trust my hands. So, I said, this is because you're sleeping with him. She gave a small shake of her head. Not denial, dismissal. Like I'd named the wrong department. It's not about that, she said. It's about trajectory. I stared at her. Trajectory. Yes. She said it the way people say synergy when they're trying to sound like it means something. I'm moving. I'm building. And you're content. Content. Slow. That's how she framed it, like it was a flaw on my resume. I'm stable, I said. That's another word for it, she replied, and her phone lit again. She glanced down, thumb hovering, then set it face down like she was being generous. I could taste iron in my mouth. Who is he to you? She didn't hesitate this time. Grant Hale. The name landed heavy. It wasn't some random guy from a bar. It sounded like a man who owned cufflinks with his initials engraved. A man who smiled with teeth and thought it counted as warmth. He understands ambition, she continued. He's in the same world. He gets what it costs. And I don't. Lauren leaned forward slightly, elbows near the island, voice calm and precise. You built a life around maintenance, Ethan. Fixing, managing, keeping things quiet. That's not bad. It's just not where I'm going. There it was. Not rage. Not pain. A verdict. I felt something rise in my chest. Anger, yeah, but cleaner than anger. More like a hardening. Like a wet concrete setting. And these papers, I said, tapping the stack once. You just decided. Alone. I didn't decide alone, she said. And for the first time I heard the edge. I tried to talk to you, but you always made it heavy. Like feelings were the whole point. They're not. I let out a short breath through my nose. So what's the point? The future, she said. And you're not in it. Her phone buzzed again. This time she picked it up, read something, and her mouth tightened. Annoyed, not guilty. Like someone was waiting on her. Then she said the sentence that stripped the room of oxygen. Grant is coming over tonight. I didn't move. Tonight. Yes, she said. Like she was scheduling a delivery window. It'll be less awkward if you're not here. I looked at the Pinot. 2 glasses. Like she'd actually considered celebrating this, her freedom, her upgrade, whatever she called it. My throat felt tight, but my voice stayed controlled. So you want me to leave my home so your boyfriend can come over? He's not my boyfriend, she said automatically, then paused like the label didn't matter. Just, please don't make a scene. There it was again, please. Not for my heart. For her optics. I stood there in our glassy kitchen. Divorce papers on the island. Pinot meant for us. And my wife speaking to me like an obstacle she needed to move before her evening started. And I realized something simple and brutal. She didn't just want out of the marriage. She wanted me gone in a way that made her feel clean. I expected a fight to show up somewhere. A crack in her voice. A tremor in her hands. Something that proved this cost her anything. But Lauren didn't operate on emotion. She operated on policy. She slid a second packet across the island like it was part of the same transaction. Not divorce logistics. I spoke with someone, she said, about the transition. I haven't touched it yet. I watched her face instead. Calm. Professional. Eyes dry. Transition, I repeated. You'll have 2 weeks, she said, to find a place. 2 weeks. Like I was a tenant whose lease got terminated. Like the years I'd put into that apartment, into her, didn't count as ownership of anything. You're kicking me out, I said. I'm not kicking you out, she corrected, tone smooth. I'm giving you time, and I'll cover a hotel if you need it. Reimbursement, like work travel. That was the specific cruelty. Not rage, not insults. A clean structure that turned me into a line item. I finally looked down at the packet. It was typed, organized, bullet-pointed. Temporary housing options. A list of items to retrieve. A section about not contacting her workplace. A suggestion written like a courtesy that I keep things private. Then she said it soft and careful, like she was doing me a favor. Please don't make a scene, Ethan. Scene. As if I was the kind of man who threw plates. As if my pain would be an embarrassment she'd have to manage. For a moment I felt the urge, pure, hot, just to break something. To let the anger flood out and stain her clean little narrative. To force her to feel anything. But I didn't. I stood there and let the anger turn inward, where it belonged. Not as self-hate, as a structure, as for clarity. Because the truth was ugly and simple. If I begged, she'd file it under proof I was content and weak. If I screamed, she'd call me unstable. Either way, she'd walk away clean. She wanted a villain to justify her, or a loser to pity. I gave her neither. I set the packet down. Neat. Like I respected the paper more than the person who put it there. 2 weeks, I said. Lauren nodded once, relieved. Like my compliance made her choice feel moral. Her phone buzzed again, and she checked it without thinking. Grant. Always Grant. That name had already moved into the space I used to occupy. I looked around the apartment. Our furniture, our photos, the quiet routines I'd maintained so her life stayed sharp. And I understood the real lesson. Being married doesn't protect you from being replaced. It just gives the replacement better access to your house. I picked up the divorce papers, not to read them again, just to feel their weight. Then I put them back down, exactly where she'd placed them, and said the only thing that mattered. Okay. I didn't argue, didn't pace, didn't ask where I was supposed to go. I just turned and walked down the hall like the floor still belonged to me. Our bedroom was all clean surfaces and neutral colors. Lauren liked anything that looked expensive and felt temporary. I opened the closet and stared at rows of suits, hers and mine, lined up like we were still a unit. I grabbed a duffel from the top shelf. Not a suitcase. A duffel says you're leaving for real. It says you don't expect to be welcomed back. I packed fast. Not everything, just essentials. Jeans, 2 shirts, socks, a hoodie, toiletries, my work laptop, a folder with my personal documents from the desk drawer she never touched because it wasn't aesthetic. I left the rest. The watch she bought me because it looked good in photos. The jackets. The furniture I'd assembled. The tools. The version of me she tried to smooth into a shape that fit her world. I zipped the bag and paused at the dresser. My wedding ring sat heavy on my hand. Simple band. No flash. Just a circle that meant I'm in this. Out in the kitchen, Lauren was still on the stool. Her phone in her hand now, thumb moving. She looked up when I came back, and for a second I saw expectation. Not love. Expectation. Like she was waiting for the part where I demanded answers. Where I tried to negotiate. I asked what I could do to fix it. I walked to the island. The papers were still there. Pinot still unopened. 2 glasses are still clean. I slid my ring off. Took a small tug. My finger was a little swollen. When it came free, it left a pale line of skin like a ghost mark. I placed it on the quartz beside the divorce papers. It didn't thunk. Clinked. A small, sharp sound that cut clean through the quiet. Lauren's eyes dropped to it. Her face finally shifted just a fraction. Unsettled. Like she'd expected drama and got something colder. You're just leaving? She asked. I kept my voice level. You told me to. That's not what I meant, she said quickly. And there it was. The first crack. Not sadness. Alarm. Because my obedience wasn't the kind she could control. You can take more time, she added. We can. No, I said. One word. No heat. No insult. Just a closed door. She blinked, like she couldn't find the right strategy. Because pity didn't work if I didn't reach for it. Anger didn't work if I didn't fight. I picked up the duffel and walked to the door. Lauren stood up behind me. Ethan. I didn't turn around. That's the thing about closure. People who do the damage always want the last word. They want you to react so they can file you away as a chapter they finished neatly. I opened the door and stepped into the hall. Before it shut, I looked back once. Not at her face, but at the island. The ring. The papers. The untouched Pinot. A marriage ended like a meeting adjourned. Then I closed the door. And at that moment I stopped being her husband. I became a ghost. 6 months can turn a life into a rumor. I didn't stalk her. I didn't ask friends for updates like a man looking for pain to chew on. I just kept moving quietly, deliberately, until the old life felt like something I'd watched happen to someone else. But Manhattan is small when your circles overlap. Names float. Photos get posted. People talk in that careful way they use when they think they're being kind. Lauren upgraded. They said. She and Grant moved into a penthouse, higher floor, bigger view, more glass. The kind of place that makes people feel successful before they've even taken their coat off. She started hosting dinners that looked like magazine spreads. Long tables, candles, catered plates. Too much wine poured into too thin glasses. Loud, status-heavy nights. Lots of laughter that didn't reach anyone's eyes. It wasn't joy. It was a performance. Grant liked optics. That's what one guy said after a few drinks. Optics, like he'd been trained to say it. Grant didn't build comfort. He curated impressions. He corrected people mid-sentence. He kept score on who was in the room and what it did for him. Lauren matched his pace at first. That's her skill adaptation. She can become whatever the environment rewards. But the part she didn't plan for was the daily grind behind the glass walls. She thought she was trading domestic for dynamic. What she really traded was competence for critique. The new place didn't run itself. Staff came and went. Deliveries got missed. Small problems stacked up. The building needed approvals, signatures, follow-ups. A leak here, a dispute there, a contractor who didn't show. The invisible engine she used to have, me, was gone. And suddenly she had to feel every little friction point she'd never noticed because I erased it before it reached her. People said she started snapping more. Not publicly, never that. Privately, at assistants, vendors, at anyone who couldn't fix an issue fast enough. Grant didn't step in. He didn't handle things. He judged how she handled them. He'd pick at details the way some men pick at food. The dinner wasn't good enough because the guest list wasn't right. A weekend wasn't relaxing because she wasn't using it strategically. Even her clothes became a discussion, what message they sent, what room they played well in. Lauren was used to pressure. She'd lived under it for years. But this wasn't pressure that led somewhere. It was pressure that fed itself. One mutual contact told me something that stuck. She kept saying, "I didn't think it would be this loud." Loud. Not the parties. Life. The constant demands. The constant management. The constant proof. Because when you replace a builder with a critic, the house still stands, but it never feels like home. And somewhere in that glass penthouse, surrounded by her upgrade, Lauren started missing the one thing she dismissed when she had it. Quiet function. Loyal competence. The kind that doesn't post. Don't brag. Just make life work. Control is Lauren's real religion. Not love. Not loyalty. Control. 6 months after the papers hit the island, she tried to finalize things. Because in her head, unfinished business is a loose thread. Something that could snag her image. That's what she told people anyway. The truth was simpler. She needed something. A signature. A confirmation. A detail only I knew because I'd handled it for years. So she reached out. First call, straight to dead air. Not voicemail. Not even a ring. Like the number didn't exist. She tried again. Same result. Then she emailed the address she'd used for everything. Bills, travel, last minute. Can you handle this? Messages when her world wobbled. Bounce back. Undeliverable. I heard about it from a mutual acquaintance who still worked in her orbit. The story wasn't told with sympathy. It was like a strange glitch in the system. She can't reach you, he said. Like, at all. Good. Lauren didn't panic because she missed me. That would have been human. Romance. Regret. This was different. This was her realizing she didn't have access anymore. No number to pull when she needed a quick fix. No inbox to drop a task into. No man on standby to silently solve what she didn't want to touch. She checked with the building. I'd removed myself from the records. Forwarding address? None. Emergency contact? Dated. Anything tied to my name? Cut clean. She tried through friends. People got vague. People got busy. People suddenly remembered they didn't want to be involved. Grant told her to let the law handle it. That's what critics do. They outsource the mess and call it strategy. But lawyers can't reach a man who chose to disappear on purpose. That's what she didn't understand at first. She thought my silence was sulking. A delay. Tantrum. Something she could wait out until I came back with my tail down. Needing closure. Instead, she found a wall. Not a dramatic wall. Not a vengeful one. Just a quiet, immovable fact. I wasn't available. And the panic that hit her wasn't heartbreak. It was oxygen loss. Because for the first time in a long time, Lauren couldn't steer the outcome by picking up a phone. 2 years passed, long enough for my old life to stop feeling like mine. Then the ambitious world Lauren worshipped did what it always does, turned hungry. It started as whispers, compliance audits, internal reviews, concerns that were really accusations with better manners. Then it turned into something louder, an investigation that pulled at the seams of Grant's world. Financial irregularities, vendor relationships that didn't look clean under fluorescent light, board members asking questions they already knew the answers to. When the board panics, it doesn't care who you are, cares what you can offer it. Something that steadies stock, calms press, restores credibility. A miracle fix. Lauren pitched one. A redevelopment plan, big enough to change headlines, complex enough to look visionary, urgent enough to justify fast approvals. The kind of project that makes people stop asking what happened last quarter and start praising forward momentum. There was only one problem. To pull it off, she needed a firm that could solve impossible zoning problems without begging the city. A team that could walk into a room full of regulators and make them feel like saying yes was their idea. A firm that didn't advertise, didn't chase contracts. I didn't need them. Vector Arc. The name moved around like a private recommendation. Quiet, elite, almost mythic. The kind of operation you only hear about if you've been in the right rooms long enough to learn what actually gets built. And who makes it happen. Lauren had to go through a gatekeeper. No direct line. No receptionist you could bully. No glossy website full of smiles. Just an intake process so sterile it felt like applying for permission to breathe. For the first time in years, she couldn't throw her title around and expect doors to open. She had to submit, request, wait, and somewhere in that process, I like to imagine it hit her. Not emotionally, not romantically, but with that familiar tightening behind her ribs. She was about to ask a faceless entity for survival. And she had no idea whose hands were on the other side of the door. Vector Arc doesn't sit in Manhattan. Manhattan is where people perform. We're in Brooklyn, concrete, steel, quiet. Our headquarters is a renovated warehouse that looks plain from the street and deliberate once you're inside. No logo screaming for attention. No lobby designed for selfies. Just space that works. I arrived early like I always do. Not anxious, prepared. The conference room glass was clean enough to disappear. Table wide. Screens ready. A carafe of water untouched. The kind of room where people feel the pressure of their own importance and talk too much. My team filed in behind me. Calm. Focused. Nobody is there to be impressed. Then the visitors came. Lauren walked in first. 2 years didn't soften her. It refined her. Same posture, same measured pace. Same eyes scanning the room like she was calculating leverage. She wore a coat that probably cost more than my first car, but the cut was sharp enough to be armor. Grant Hale followed, and he looked exactly like his name. Tailored suit, controlled smile, handshake that squeezed just a little too long. They took their seats, and Lauren's gaze drifted across the wall display. I saw it happen, the subtle change. She noticed a set of framing lines on the preliminary boards we'd mounted. Not the content, the signature. A way of balancing negative space. The geometry, the restraint. I used to sketch like that at our kitchen island when the apartment went quiet at night. She'd walk past and barely glance down. Now she stared. Her mouth didn't open, but her throat tightened like something inside her had remembered. Grant started talking before introductions finished. He liked dominance early, claiming the air, owning the room. Vector Arc, he said. We appreciate you making time. We're looking at an accelerated timeline and we need partners who can operate at. I raised my hand. Not rude. Final. We'll start with the numbers, I said. My voice came out even. Controlled. No warmth. No edge. Just a fact. Grant blinked, thrown off for half a second. Lauren's eyes shifted to me as I spoke, then lifted fully when she realized who the voice belonged to. I watched recognition hit her like cold water. Not a surprise exactly. Dread. I stood at the head of the table, remote in hand, and finally gave them what they came for. My name is Ethan Brooks, I said. I'm the director here. Silence landed heavy, the kind that presses on your ears. Lauren didn't move. Her face stayed composed, but her eyes did the math fast. Too fast. Grant recovered first because men like him always try to. Director, he repeated, smile tightening. Interesting. I wasn't aware. You wouldn't be, I said, and clicked the screen. Their proposal filled the display. I'd already marked it up. Every soft assumption. Every optimistic projection. Every place they were trying to buy time with language. I didn't look at Lauren when I dismantled it. I looked at the work. Your timeline is unrealistic without regulatory concessions, I said. Your contingency is cosmetic. Your capital stack is fragile. And your risk exposure is generous. Grant leaned forward, jaw stiff. We didn't come here to be lectured. No, I said. You came here because you're cornered. That landed. Even Grant felt it. Lauren finally spoke, careful. Ethan, we didn't know. I met her eyes for the first time. There it was. The woman who'd laid papers beside Pino like trash mail. The woman who had called me content and slow. The woman who told me to be gone so her upgrade wouldn't feel awkward. Now she was measuring every word like she was walking across glass. I know you didn't, I said. Then I pushed the terms across the table. Not revenge theater. Not a dramatic monologue. Just business reality with teeth. Vector Arc would take control of the core approvals process. Vector Arc would have final say on design pivots. Vector Arc would require disclosure access to financial records. And if they failed compliance standards, we walked publicly. Grant read the first page and his face darkened. This strips us of control, he snapped. It strips you of illusions, I replied. Lauren's hands rested flat on the table, perfectly still. But I saw the smallest tremor in her fingers when she realized the truth. She wasn't negotiating with the husband she erased. She was sitting across from the man who replaced her, in the only language she respected. Outcome, leverage, terms. And for the first time since the night on the island, she had nothing in her voice but the sound of a door she couldn't open. Their world didn't collapse in one dramatic day. It bled out in controlled leaks. Boards don't yell. They remove. Grant tried to fight. He threatened. He postured. He played the same dominance games he tried in my conference room, only now the room was full of people who didn't care about his tone, just his liability. When survival gets tight, loyalty becomes math. Grant got sacrificed. Not in handcuffs, not on the evening news. Just quietly shoved out of the frame so the company could claim accountability, without admitting how deep the rot went. Lauren survived, barely. The kind of survival that costs you pieces. Reputation scuffed. Authority reduced. Smiles thinner. People still invited her to places, but not with the same warmth. Not as a queen, more like a cautionary story that could still be useful. Vector Arc did the work. We stabilized the redevelopment. We cleaned what could be cleaned. Then we stepped back exactly the way we always do. No applause, no interviews, no need for credit. That's what builders understand. Attention is expensive. I was leaving the warehouse one night when I saw her. Not inside. Not in a boardroom. Not protected by titles. Outside, under a street lamp that made the wet pavement shine like dull metal. Lauren stood near the curb, coat buttoned, hair pulled back, face set like she'd rehearsed what to say. But there was a tightness around her mouth that didn't belong to rehearsal. She'd been waiting. I didn't stop because she asked. I stopped because I decided to. Her voice came out controlled, but thinner than I remembered. Ethan. I looked at her the way you look at an old address, recognition without attachment. I need to talk, she said. You're talking, I replied. She swallowed. Then the mask shifted into something more desperate. Still restrained, but real enough to show cracks. They're turning on me, she said. I did what I had to do. I'm trying to fix it. She exhaled sharply. I need protection, support, something to steady this. She didn't say I miss you. She didn't say I'm sorry. She was asking for a shield, for a man to stand between her and consequences. She stepped closer, just a fraction, like proximity could summon the old version of me. What we were. Cut it clean. Not cruel. Accurate. The husband you're looking for is gone, I said. Her eyes flashed, hurt mixing with frustration. So that's it? After everything. After everything, I repeated and nodded once. Yes. Lauren's voice tightened. You're really going to let me drown? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smirk. I didn't lecture. I'm not hunting you, I said. But I'm not shielding you either. She stared at me like she was trying to provoke something. Anger, hate, anything with heat in it. Because hate would mean connection. It would mean I still cared enough to be pulled into her gravity. But what she'd earned wasn't hate. It was absence. I adjusted my jacket, looked past her to the dark street, and felt nothing. No thrill, no vengeance rush, no satisfaction that needed an audience. Just finality. Lauren's voice softened into a last attempt. Ethan, please. I held her gaze for a beat, long enough to make sure she understood the truth. Then I stepped around her. As I walked away, I didn't look back. Under that street lamp, she stayed standing, alone, quiet, learning the real ending. Indifference. Because hate would have meant she still mattered. And she didn't.